No Man's Sky was a game that was always doomed to fail, yet now, as we reach its 9-year anniversary, remains one of gaming's greatest success stories. And I'm sure it's one you've heard, but I felt I wanted to give my personal take on it based on my own experiences, sort of showing some light on a real rarity in an industry which, as we sort of every waking minute, seems to be getting filled with more and more negativity, bad business practices, etc., etc. Usually from the bigger companies. I feel like we're in an era now in 2025 where the larger studios are starting to play second fiddle to the smaller ones almost, and we've seen this huge rise in independent and AA projects have so much success with stuff like Clair Obscur, Expedition 33, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, to name a few of some of the most notable. And I think No Man's Sky, although it was more of a gradual turn over the last near decade, has entered that sort of domain of success stories, right? And critically, that's due to the fact that they maintained independence from launch. You know, when 2016 it came out, or at least we had the build up to its release, with this incredible idea of a completely procedural universe, quintillions of planets, countless systems and things to do, explore. It almost seemed too good to be true, and in a lot of ways it was. And that narrative was pushed by Sony, of all parts, who were in charge of the marketing, but they didn't have publishing or creative control over the project. So there was a lot of miscommunication and mismanagement. But I'm sure, like myself, when I was 14, you were, you know, just encapsulated and enamored by this idea. And of course, on launch, that ended up being too good to be true. In fact, the game was made at the time by launch by about 15 people here over in England. You know, it was a titan of a project filled with overpromise and complete under-delivery, if that's a phrase I can use, right? And of course, I'm sure you know the launch, you know, complete negativity across the reviews, a buggy, unfinished mess. Yeah, it was a complete disaster. And that was the turning point, right? Because I think, especially in this day and age now, where AAA studios are so quick to just throw in the towel on anything and cut their losses. And I know I mention it like every video, but it's just the best example is something like Concord, which cost Sony $400 million and absolutely bombed. And within a week, they shut down the servers entirely and didn't try to build on what was already there and rescue this project. With something like that on that scale, I can somewhat understand it, right? But there's so much room to regain trust with an audience and build something so special. And that's exactly what Sean Murray and Hello Games and No Man's Sky have been doing for 9 years straight. They're, in my opinion, that with the financial means to do so, every studio should aim to do, is to build a project back, restore reputation, and make it better than what you were ever even promising in the first place. And since 2016 up until now, they've been doing that and sticking to that core tenet of not releasing even any DLC outside of a few cosmetic microtransactions, which I can speak from experience are not a priority or pushed heavily. Instead, relentless, almost free updates all the time, expanding and building new features, new items, new everything. For example, literally in the update just dropped, and it was really the inspiration for this video was the ability to build your ship yourself. A custom ship which you can walk around and customize from the outside to the inside and share with your friends and explore space and time together. And that's just, you know, in an era now where I think co-op experiences are becoming a lot more present, focusing in on that is a no-brainer. And it's got me back into the game as of late. You know, I plan to play it, you know, soon again and jumping back in. And it's a game that's got me on a personal level through so many hard times, you know, because it's a project now with all of its features that is really anything you want it to be. I feel like that was always the aim with No Man's Sky, was it to be a space sandbox to really carve out your own path and do what you wanted to. It can be a game to grind. It can be a survival permadeath experience where the challenge is, you know, really there. You're, you know, bit by bit, planet by planet, trying to scavenge and survive when you only have one life. This isn't speaking from experience, but I know it's a feature in the game and I know it's something people love. It can be a game to relax and completely zen and find some zen. That's what it was for me in a time with COVID where I was very isolated in my first year of university and there wasn't a lot to do or people to hang out with. No Man's Sky was a real kind of, out of many other games that I played, a real kind of refuge for me, because I could almost switch my brain off, relax with a simple goal in mind, which for me was finding the perfect planet to build a settlement on and build a sort of base on. And I would just spend hours and hours with some music in the background or something, jumping from system to system to system, scanning planets, trying to make sure it fit every little tick box in my brain that I would go and settle there and finally find the right planet. And there's something so therapeutic, and I think it's almost, for me, it was an opportunity to escape. And I feel like that's what games are, then they should be for the majority of the part. They should be for fun, but they should also be something to escape and switch your mind off from all the problems you have in the real world. And that's what No Man's Sky represents so much for me, and I think a lot of other people, because if you look at the Steam reviews, I think it was a couple of years ago now, for the first time they crossed the very positive boundary, which I think is having over 90% of reviews being positive. And that's a phenomenal achievement considering how hated this game was at launch. I don't know, for those of you who don't know, it was, you know, in a lot of ways deserved, because the game was unfinished, buggy, and, you know, everything it wasn't promised to be, if that makes sense. You know, it failed in a lot of ways and deserved the flack it got. So seeing this recover from now, it's almost unheard of. I think maybe Cyberpunk is only one from recent memory I can think of, a game that had a disastrous launch and the developers, you know, put their foot in the ground and said, we're not leaving, and fixed the project and made it even better than it was originally even planned to be. But it is depressing in a lot of ways that this is such a rare case. As I said before, so many studios are quick to, on a failed project or a project that is, you know, dead on arrival, something like Redfall with Xbox, I think they've been guilty. And the knock-on effect of that is studios shutting down, right? So many of these studios that Xbox have acquired, promising studios, have gone on to have releases and then be completely shut down due to a failed marketing campaign, a botched development cycle. There can be a lot of reasons, right? But instead of, you know, spending the time to restore faith within the game, the developers and the community that they could have built, they choose to just cut their losses and essentially just nuke it. And I don't think that's good for anyone, especially in a time where we've got the stop killing games movement, and, you know, this whole sort of premise and idea of keeping games alive, you know, has become such a heated topic of discussion, and a passionate one that so many people are resonating with, myself included. You know, having games like No Man's Sky, which have built a real community, a core community and success over a long period of time through, as I said, this tenet of putting their feet in the ground and just building trust back and building something incredible. You know, I just really hope we can see more of that. And of course, they got their upcoming project now, Light No Fire, which, you know, adopts a lot of the same tenets of No Man's Sky with procedural generation. The difference is it's on one planet for the entire player. So essentially it's its own Earth, and it looks exciting to me. And I'm sure, even more optimistically, No Man's Sky, their developers, Hello Games, and the many now people working for them have learned from all of the mistakes and, you know, that they made in the first time around. So I can only hope it will be something truly, truly special when it finally comes to launch day. But yeah, I just wanted to share my love for a game which I've spent, you know, quite a long time with sporadically throughout the years, and I've had some great experiences. I hope you have too, and if you haven't, go check it out. Go support one of the few good eggs in terms of developers who aren't controlled by investors and forced to meet deadlines, who can work on things because they want to, just like I'm doing with this channel. That's what, you know, game development is all about to me, and it's what it should be about. You know, so many projects have failed because of investor interference. You know, so this is a game that you should support. It's a studio you should support. And let me know what you think in the comment section below of your experiences with it. Anything you want me to talk about, any games you're passionate about. Again, as I always say, this isn't a place for negativity. It's a place for love, to talk about the hobby that I, and I'm sure so many of you, have so much passion and love for. And also, thank you so much for the support on the Skate and the Souls video. I mean, it's crazy. I always knew it was, you know, the potential this channel had if I put full effort into it. And it's just great to feel vindicated because of that. So thank you so much for the love, support there, and hopefully here too. Yeah, and I will see you on the next one. Have a good one.